management company from
Yeah,
up in,
we're live here
all right.
on the Indy Investor Speakeasy, live from the Water Bowl and at the Off Leash Construction headquarters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Best place to hold a little party, right? And for the first time ever, we actually have Kenny here from Live Indy on the podcast. I can't believe it's taken us over a year to figure this out.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Kenny.
The Speakeasy poll has always intrigued me. Seeing it online, it's like, ooh, hope I get an invite. That's a good club.
It's an easy yes, because you get free bourbon.
I love it. Yeah, cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah. You've been invited here for bourbon before, but never for recording. So glad we were able to get this lined up. So Kenny, why don't you give quick background on you and how you got here and why the heck you're on the Speakeasy podcast?
Sure. So real estate's been something I've always been interested in for a long time and got into it somewhat accidentally. I don't think anybody grows up being like, I want to be a property manager.
No.
That's not the aspiring trade.
Yeah, it's firefighter, astronaut, property manager, right up here.
My career path, a little tangent, told me I really like driving, really like being outside. So early high school took that test, and it's like, you're going to be a garbage truck driver. Oh, cool.
Nice.
Great. I can't wait.
Yeah.
But real estate has been something I've always been interested in. Grew up playing Legos, like building things, like constructing things with my hands. Grandpa was in real estate. And so my wife and I moved into a property, South Carmel, Home Place neighborhood, before it was annexed by Carmel. Nice buy by us, unintentionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was great.
I didn't know that.
We moved in and we spent 2 years there, bought another place in Broad Ripple, moved out, turned it into a rental. So classic homeowner, low down payment, and be able to move out and turn it into a rental. And that was great. We had some great tenants. They signed a year lease and quickly renewed and stayed there for 3 years. So
wow,
we had an awesome first experience.
This whole property management thing's easy, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's super easy. Very hands off. Collect a check. No problems.
Yeah.
So that was the first experience. Matt Spear started Live Indy. We were part of the Orr Fellowship together. We met there, and he was building it as kind of a lifestyle business. Initially, he was a real estate agent. He was flipping homes. He was a rehab manager, and he had a couple clients, third-party property management. And through his own portfolio, we reconnected because he found out about my own personal rental, said, hey, I'm going on a trip and I need some help leasing up some properties. So he gave me the opportunity to lease them up, said, this is what I need rent-wise. This is what I'm looking for. I actually exceeded those expectations, getting him more rent and a longer lease term. And so he was pleased with that and said, hey, why don't you become a leasing coordinator for me? I'm like, this is fun. I like opening doors. I like people, and I'm going to sell this real estate.
I like driving. I like being outside.
Yeah. And he paid me a commission, $500 a lease sign. I was like, this is great money for the time spent. It was pretty easy to close a lease for me. I thought it was not hard at all. So that was fun and kept doing it. And one thing led to another. Matt said, hey, I think you should run the property management side of the business. And my background being in marketing and management, started out in corporate America, working for Car Global. Loved the job, had a lot of good experience there. And then went up to Springbuck and did health tech in Indy prop tech world and just learned a lot there. And Matt gave me the opportunity to run Live Indy and said, hey, let's streamline, let's focus in on just property management. And so he actually fronted a salary for me and gave me a 6-month runway. Said at the end of the 6 months, no salary, you got to figure out how to make money on your own, get your real estate license. Had a little bit of savings in the bank and said, let's take the risk. No kid at the time, and let's do it. So Lex and I decided, let's go all in. So quit the W-2, took the risky move, and built a business. So from there, that was 2019, or about 5 years later, and we're still building it. So we've gone through a lot of peaks and valleys.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably wasn't a smooth path.
No, not always. I think the first couple of years were really exciting. A lot of growth. I was kind of the new kid on the block from a property management perspective. Had a new unique approach from our fee structure to the way that I cared for properties. Had a big big pull on our core values. So core values for Live Indy are win together, do the hard thing, and unleash the hustle. And win together is all aspects of property management. So you're talking to your tenant, talking to your owner, your vendor, and the internal team, most importantly, I think. And just really trying to win. Where do you find the win for everybody? Common ground. And that's been a big focus for us over the last several years. But then do the hard things all around integrity. There's a lot of out-of-state investors trusting us with $1 million worth of assets, and it's a lot to ask when you're, hoping that water heater is really broken when you're asking them to replace it. Shouldn't have to think that way. So how do you build a business where that integrity is first and foremost, and you have that trust built with the client, and then you're taking care of it. So that's how we built it. And it's been a fun ride so far, but definitely it's peaks and valleys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know I've talked a little bit about my history with property management on this podcast before, where there have been two times now where I've been robbed for 6 figures by bad property managers. And I think their approach was a little bit different than yours in a lot of ways. Like, one, you're not a dishonest person who's looking to put the rental income up your nose or anything like that. But other than that, the way you've approached it is very different than a lot of people. You said some things that were interesting. First and foremost is you decided to be a property manager. That was what you decided to be. You weren't an agent who was looking to do property management on the side.
Right.
This is what you were doing to put food on the table and to feed your family. And I think that was a big thing. I think that a lot of these fly-by-night property managers that get hot and do pretty well, they come into the space, they sell a couple of investment properties, and then they're like, wait, I could be getting an annuity on this on a monthly basis, in addition to the commission. But they don't understand just how hard property management is. Like, what are some of the things that are particularly difficult on that side of the house?
Well, especially the money side for me personally. Even just in this last year, I do have my real estate license. It's a requirement in property management law to manage single family properties. I have that license. However, I have not used it apart from $150,000 sale in 2024. But I've referred almost 8 million. And that's because we have all of the contracts with these owners of properties. They want to buy, they want to sell. So who are the people that I'm going to be entrusting those clients to make a good sale and then bring me a door that I'm going to manage that? So it's really a start to finish relationship. But could I have made $8 million worth of sales? Yeah, I probably could have found a way, but then it would have sacrificed property management operations and growth. Yeah. So we've spent a lot of this last year focusing on operations solely instead of growing. In years past, we've had a lot of growth. 1 year we added just over 200 doors. So that was a big year, big growth year. Some really big profile clients. One client had 43 properties. So it was a really big endeavor to onboard that and a transition working with the previous property manager to transitioning to us, introduce ourselves to the tenants, all the pre-inspections of all the properties. It just takes a long time. There's that many key management and collecting all that, do your inspections, things some property managers say they do, but don't follow through on. We actually do. So those kind of things, it just takes a long time. But some of that growth also hurt us because we had operations in place that I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is how we're going to scale. This is how we're going to do it. But come to find out, when you have so many properties, it's difficult to execute all of those things across so many properties. So some of that quality unintentionally dipped because of our growth period. And so that's where we've just taken a really back burner on the growth approach this last year, and had opportunities to hire some new people and bring them on, invest in those processes again, and make sure that they work up to 1,000 doors. Is this something that can scale with us again, or do we have to keep iterating along the way? Probably will. But that's the opportunity right there.
I guarantee if you double in size, something's going to break along the way.
And it absolutely will. It's figuring out what are those inflection points so that you are proactive about it rather than reactive, and then you can keep the same quality of service.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I was I was going to say the operations side, whenever, I mean, we've talked about this a couple times. Whenever these, some of these property managers grow too quickly, there's always
Yeah.
a hiccup along the way.
Yep.
And that's always a question we tell people is like, when your property manager starts building too quickly, you should start asking the question, like, do you have the resources to do this? And
Right.
it's honestly a breath of fresh air that you're understood. Like, all right, there's some breaks here. Let's get our operations down.
Yeah.
And get our processes down.
And I might have unintentionally said, yeah, we can support it. Right?
Yeah.
You're hungry for growth at the time.
Sure.
You're excited. And
Absolutely.
I
And
think this is going to work.
You don't know what the right amount of growth is,
Right.
right? So it's
Yeah.
like, was it 100 was going to be fine, and then you could have been? So
Right.
Yeah.
it's hard to say what that number is.
Yep.
So
and we're all in customer service here. Like we fundamentally, somebody asks if we can do something. If there's a 1% chance we can do it,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
remember the first day a property manager asked if we do maintenance. Paul and I were sitting here actually in this speakeasy, and we looked at each
probably do
other,
it.
and we looked at each other, and I just go, "Yeah, of course we do maintenance.
We can
Duh."
do it,
Like,
yeah.
I had no idea that
Yeah.
that was going to be one of the most painful transitions we've ever made, and honestly, tripped over ourselves and
Sure.
and made one property manager pretty mad at us in the process, and I think we figured it out since then. But
Sure.
but yeah, it's growth is difficult, and
Mhm.
and changing business practices is difficult. And something I'd love to kind of get your perspective on is every property manager talks about the percentage they charge.
Mhm.
You know, it's the 8%, 10%, 12%, whatever that number is.
Yep.
I fundamentally think that number is baloney because there are so many ways that a property manager can make money.
Yep.
And it's obviously that base percentage or dollar per door, somewhere on that model. Then there's maintenance markup or potential short pay, depending on how they approach maintenance. There is placement fees, there's vacancy fees, there's trip visits, there's annual renewals. Like what do you view as kind of the things somebody should be looking at when talking to a property manager?
Yeah, I think a property manager traditional fee structure, it's relatively low margin, and at the same time, we're expected to be somewhat like attorneys,
Mhm.
paid $250 to $500 an hour, and on call
Mhm.
all the time, 24/7, 365. Yet we're actually paid 10% of rent per month, and that might be $1,500 rental, $150 for the whole month.
Yeah.
And it's kind of laughable at that point, but that's why it's a volume game in order to actually make significant profit for the business. But you have to have good operations in order to support it. Live Indy's created a unique fee structure. We've got 10% of rent.
Yeah.
And then we've got $595 annually per door.
Okay.
And that's paid 12 months into management. And reason for that is it's an expected cost rather than a surprise cost in your most least profitable time frame of owning that asset.
Yeah.
Contrary to a traditional model is 1 month's rent for a lease up fee.
Yeah.
While it's been vacant for probably 30 days, 45 days.
Yeah.
Already with the turn included. Not to mention the turn cost, $1,500 to $3,000 on an average turn right now because the costs have gone up. Over the past
Depends what needs to happen. Like
Exactly.
honestly,
Yeah.
that's a pretty cheap turn.
That's a pretty cheap
Yeah.
turn, and a lot of people are surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
That's not doing floors. That's not doing new appliances.
That might not even
needed.
be doing new paint.
Sometimes it's doing new paint.
Sometimes it depends on the size of that unit.
Size of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. It's typically some paint touch up, a
Yeah.
clean, and some trash out of.
Yeah.
Tenants always leave something behind.
Yeah.
So
you said that you do 10% of $595 per year. Do you do any type of lease up or anything like that?
no lease up fee, no renewal fee, no hidden fee throughout the months,
No.
no lockbox placement fee, anything like that. We do markup maintenance 10%. All
Fair. Before I got into the maintenance game, I would have balked at that a little bit and had a little bit of upset. Now I understand the amount of overhead that goes into that. And that there's a ton of work that I see. And so I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's also perceiving the value of it too.
Yeah.
While a property manager has work all the time, we can go to a vendor and say, hey, vendor, would you like to partner with us? And in return, can you offer us competitive pricing compared to just a retail customer?
Yeah.
And then I can in turn go to the client and say, hey, I got you a water heater for $1,800, whatever it is. While
Retail would have
market,
been 22.
22 right now. That's what a water heater is. It's crazy. And so I can still then add $180 on top of that and still save the owner money while I'm making $180.
Yeah.
And they got a good quality, buy a licensed plumber. It's got a warranty. I've stopped using the Craigslist guy, learn the hard way on that. And you're going to have repeat visits and the nickel and dime for maintenance if you do that. So have the mid-tier vendors, have good relationships, and then be able to be transparent about your 10% markup and why you actually do deserve that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I can tell you, like, we obviously do quite a bit of maintenance work for you guys, or intern work for you guys right now. And let me tell you, you get better pricing than some one-off customer would. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you should get benefited from that. And then managing us and dispatching us and all that.
Yeah, and it's a benefit for your business. It's a steady workflow that you don't have to go and spend marketing dollars on and have a sales rep go and find you a new kitchen, whereas you might get a turn from us, whatever.
Yeah. Before we move off fees real quick, and I could hear Brooks trying to go a different direction. Would love to get your perspective on this. I have come to the conclusion that if the total that you spend with a property manager isn't in the ballpark of 12%, they're stealing money from somewhere. And the reason I say that is that includes maintenance markup, that includes your base percentage, that includes lease up fees, all of that stuff. I just haven't found any legitimate business owner at this point on the PM side that net of everything is receiving less than 12% when you consider all the rent in. What do you think about that?
No, that's extremely low.
You think it's higher than that?
Yeah, it's higher.
You think 14? Like, what do you think?
Probably like, honestly, with maintenance has exceeded everybody's pro formas over the last couple of years.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so I think people are putting in the wrong number for maintenance, and they're thinking that it's not going to cost them anything, and they're surprised on the maintenance costs. And especially if they have never owned the property, and it's maybe a recently flipped property, you think, oh, it's perfect. It's just not the case. So I think setting proper expectations up front that maintenance is going to be higher. You don't have a inspector or someone doing a condition report going in and twisting everything, pulling everything, using everything over and over and over again, like a tenant will that's living there. And a tenant is traditionally a lot rougher than a homeowner. So they don't treat it like it's theirs. And yes, you can call it wear and tear, but they just don't have the pride of it like they would if they owned it. And that's just the reality. Even if you can coach them through, this is why you should treat it this way. Your security deposit's on the line. It just doesn't resonate. So I think that maintenance margin in terms of what people are budgeting for is significantly
I apologize.
lower.
I mean specifically for the property manager. Like how much of the take of the rent the property manager takes on an annualized basis.
I see. So I do think it's higher than 12%. It's probably more about 14 to 15%. And that's because of additional maintenance markup, I think.
I agree. Or leasing fees or whatever. Like you have $595 that you charge. I think that's totally legitimate. And given, and I've said this about 1,000 times, I think PMs are the most underrated member of the team that people view as super expensive. But they think that, on that $1,000 rental, they're paying, let's say annualized, the 14%, $140 a month. That feels really expensive. It's not a lot to get when you're doing all that a property manager does.
It's not a lot to be paid, but when you have a lower rental,
it's a lot to pay.
It is a lot to pay, and it hurts that ROI. And so it's difficult being in the property management position while also having my investor hat on. I own rental properties as well, and wanting to make sure that performs well. While I'm actually taking money to make it perform better. It's a weird push and pull, and it's like, well, I've got to make money. I'm a business for a reason. We exist to make money. That's what a business is,
and add more value than you take.
But then you want to also be strategic for that owner. Say, your water heater, we could change the element, but it's also a 13-year-old water heater. You're at the end of the lifespan. Just because we put this new part in here doesn't mean it's going to stay hot. Probably some sediment buildup, and we should change the upper one or just change the whole thing. Now you got a warranty. So now that's $1,800 versus a $350 part, but it was strategic, right? Think long-term. And I think right now everybody's shooting for, they want cash flow, but even if you're taking your $1,100 to $1,500 mortgage payment, and you're making that $200 less, meaning you're paying for the mortgage and the tenant's paying the rest, you're actually losing money on paper. It's still better because there's
You're gaining
mortgage pay
equity.
down. It's
Yeah.
equity.
Mhm.
So I think these next couple of years, with interest rates being traditionally a little higher than they were, and I think people can just enjoy some appreciation years and
I think you're probably
ride
right.
it. And I think that they're going to be happy in 5,
Yeah.
6, 8 years from now and
Yeah.
see what their pay down's been.
All right. Well, my last question here, and then I'm going to shut up because I know Brooks has probably got a million. So you were going down a really interesting path there before I cut you off. And it's so, people I think should be expecting in the ballpark 14-16% total accrual from a PM side. From the construction side, I can tell you, if you've got a perfect house that's brand new, you should be accruing about 10% towards repairs and CapEx. If you've got a dump, expect that to be closer to 20 in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So you've got, anywhere from, what is that, 24 to 36% of just right there. Property taxes, you need to be accruing for vacancy.
Indiana is one of the number one in the nation for property management or
Property
tax
taxes.
increase.
Yeah.
So,
and then the other side of it is vacancy. Like you're going to have vacancy between tenants. Like even if Kenny does an incredible job and he has 3 years of tenancy, you're going to have a month or two that place is vacant between tenants that you need to, maybe longer depending on when they leave. So assume 4 or 5% there from a vacancy.
5% is what I'm recommending now.
Yeah. So you're probably sitting at 50% overhead before you pay your mortgage. People just need to be prepared for that when they walk in there. And if they go in with that expectation, I think they're going to be a whole lot happier when they see their monthly payouts.
I think you're spot on with those numbers. That's what I've been telling as people, because I get a lot of those new investor conversations, and whether a realtor has recommended Live Indy to be part of that rental discussion, and I can recommend rent rates and what it should be. I'm telling what to budget for. And that sometimes kills the deal and that agent's upset, but that's part of the long time. Do you want that client to come back and buy another rental property? But you're exactly right. I think you should probably be a real estate coach.
I should consider that someday. For anybody who's not aware, we do have a free tool out there. It is at offleashconstruction.com/calculator. Which I don't know if I've sent to you yet. It's freaking cool.
Nice.
I'm really happy with it. It's very much a beta product. Still needs some work, but I'm no Matt Spear, so I'll have to work a little bit on my my coding. But it does actually default a lot of those values that people aren't thinking about when they're doing that first, second, third property. So hopefully
we've built a tool as well, leveraging around 10,000 rental property data sets that people just don't have access to because of other property managers. Typically, the rental rate is not a sold closing on MyBoard, which is where all the public record goes. So we don't know that it actually rented for $1,500, but we have access to that because we've got hundreds of properties that have rented over periods of time. So we leverage that data, build in a tool, and actually offer up comps. So that paired with what you've built, we can recommend a really solid expectation for how that property is going to perform.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Brooks, I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to let you ask some good
You're
questions.
good. I was kind of going to piggyback on like some of the hard parts of your job. I was kind of wondering, is it harder to deal with the owners of these properties, or is it harder to deal with the tenants and tracking down money at times?
I think if I was to just gut feel on that, it's the tenant.
Yeah.
And it's the tenant because for me, we don't have the relationship. We're just taking their money and either falling short on a maintenance request and speed of completion, or their overall experience. And maybe the owner did not approve a maintenance request that wasn't a dire need. And so we had to go back and tell them we're not doing it. They don't think of the owner in that situation. They think of Live Indy.
Yeah.
And so we can have that bad rep.
You are the owner, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. We are the owner.
You're the representative.
They're like, they own this house and they're slumlords.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't actually own the home. So,
but I'm sure your Google reviews represent that you.
There's some tough ones.
Yeah.
And
I think every property management company that deals with the same issue.
It's difficult. And I think the owner perspective, while we've had plenty of hard conversations, that's a relationship. That's a long-term thing. There's going to be good conversations and bad conversations. I try to not have the only time I'm talking to a client be bad news. I want to call up and just talk about, is this investment performing well? I had a great conversation yesterday, and The owner was specifically pleased with preventive maintenance and getting ahead of problems. And we did some tree trimming, we did some gutter cleaning, get that water away from the house, and just making sure that the home is performing well. And while that's additional spend, we're avoiding future problems. So I think that that's something that he actually called me and said, "Thank you for doing that." It's like, oh, I don't get those thank yous too often. So that'll be good for another month for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're either getting MF'd by the tenant or the owner about why.
Yeah.
Well, I love that I've got you two here, given both of your backgrounds, because I always describe the property manager as the cop of the real estate game. Like whenever you're dealing with a cop, it's the worst part of your day. Whenever you're dealing with a property manager, that's the worst part of your day. Even if like the cop is helping you out with something, it's because something bad has happened in your world. With a property manager, the only good day you have with a property manager is the day the tenant moves in or the day you sign with that property manager. From that point on, the tenant calls you when their house is broken. The tenant, you call the tenant when they're not paying rent. Whenever I see my property manager's phone number come across on mine, I'm like, God damn it. Like
there's a problem.
This is a 4-digit problem at this point. And so, I think you have a really hard job. And I, kind of getting back, I know the circles back to the fees, but I think, like I said, you are one of the most underpaid members of anybody's core four for that reason.
Sure. I would agree with that. I think,
He's biased.
It's one of those where you do wonder some days why you keep doing it. But I think that's everyone building a business too. It's just there's always hard days. We exist because of conflict. Someone has said, I do not want to manage that conflict. I just want you to send me a check and I will approve the rest. So that's why property management exists. So.
You're everyone's best friend when they don't hear from you.
Exactly.
But, since we are getting into some of this little cold snap we're in right now, what are some things that property managers, or not property managers, but some owners need to be aware of here with some of the I shouldn't say sub-zero, but sub-20 temperatures here the last couple of days. It's really cold.
I mean, we're knock on wood, where is it? But
there's some behind you.
We've got a little over 400 properties today, and we've had some of the lowest temps we've had this year. We got to 12 today, no frozen pipes. That's big.
Really?
It's really big.
No frozen pipes?
No frozen pipes.
How about HVACs? Are they all turning on?
Well, I mean, you fix them quick. Had a couple no heat calls, but no frozen pipes. And that's big. That's it's actually, I've been doing this for almost 6 years now, part-time and then full-time 5 years. And I've had frozen pipes every year. So is it inevitable? I kind of think so, but I'm working on how can it be something
It's
that
close to nothing.
You just don't have any.
Yeah.
It's a zero tolerance thing. So, and a lot of that's preventive maintenance, getting ahead of things, making sure that those, the water lines are insulated properly. The heat is turned on those vacant properties.
Yeah.
So we go through beginning of October and we go through all of the vacant properties. We turn on that heat, make sure that furnace filter is cleaned out, and we timestamp with a photo. So we've got the thermostat being set to 65. So we put them on and make sure that everything's good. And some of these vacant homes as well with it's the water lines that are on the outside of the house.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful when you have your sink overlooking the backyard and the window, but it's actually, the water lines along the house on the outside, and that's it's a hazard.
Can't insulate it.
Open up those cabinets, drip the water line, make sure that water's moving, and you lower that risk. But a lot of homeowners should be wondering, like, hey, have my gutters been cleaned out? Because that water coming off the roof in the rain or the snow clogs in with those leaves, and it becomes a really big, heavy ice weight, and that pulls the gutters away from the house. So it risks that soffit actually rotting, and then it creates a little hole, or rodent can get in.
Wait, hold on. Are you advising people actually do work on their house before there's a problem?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think just with you not having any frozen pipes, knock on wood, at the moment over this past week or so, is kind of a testament to how well you guys are doing with your preventative maintenance, to be honest with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Which is awesome. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that.
I agree. I agree. Today we had a really nice Thanksgiving. My family did, and it's first year in a while. A couple Christmases ago was brutal.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What
Everyone had brutal.
I feel like
Yeah.
Christmas like 2 years ago. I think I know the one you're talking
I
about.
think we had like 3 days below zero in
Yeah.
a row or something.
Yeah.
like that.
I was like, Merry Christmas. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
That was the
I've
year
got a
that
lot
I
of
had
work
to
do.
fly back from California, and we came back into single digits, and I'm like,
Yep.
no, this is full blown.
No thanks.
Yeah.
I'm going back.
Yeah, screw
Yeah.
this. I don't need my dog. It's fine.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, with like the AC, like you were talking about, that's kind of hard to with it being outside and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
The AC.
Or I guess never mind. We were talking about the furnace, not the AC. I was
Yeah.
thinking about ACs outside, but that wouldn't matter.
Yeah, no, a lot. So what I'll tell you is like, yes, do preventative maintenance on your furnace.
Yep.
That's the kind of thing you want to deal with in October and November.
Yep.
You don't want to call off leash construction in December. Yeah.
No.
Our HVAC guys are much busier. It's more
Mhm.
expensive to do anything.
Yeah.
It's harder for us to get a furnace in December than
Right.
it is in November. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think like you were saying, doing the preventative maintenance on the front end makes a lot of sense.
What are some of the biggest issues that you're seeing with between squatters, tenant evictions, and trying to get them out, scams, stuff like
Yeah.
that? What are you kind of
Yeah,
seeing these days
all
that we could
this year's
I guess
been-
the new
Yeah.
is there any new stuff that we're not hearing about, or what's the
I'm-
biggest things?
You're hitting all the big things. This year's been a record year for all of that. Inflation hurt a lot of people. Gas prices went up. Groceries went up. Through COVID, I didn't have a lot of problems with delinquency. Really didn't, and it's a
Mhm.
surprise to people. With prices going up, rent rates going up, people were making great money still, and
Yeah.
people have gotten laid off now. Their jobs aren't as good as they used to be. People are cutting back on salaries, and it's sad, but delinquency's gone way up. We used to be at 98%. Now we're at 92%. And it's still a good number. You
Yeah.
think, that's still an A in high school, but it's like, I'd rather be 95% plus.
Mhm.
So there's
Yeah.
still some, and we're pretty strict on our evictions. So day 7 comes, you're 1 day late after the grace period, and we're sending that 10-day notice. So you
Mhm.
got to pay in the next 10 days, or we're going to file that eviction. And typically that's about a month and a half before possession's given. And it's pretty easy in Indiana, unfortunately. I hate
Yeah.
that part of the job, but you got to pay rent. So
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is stealing. Like, it doesn't feel like it, I'm
Yeah.
sure, for a lot of
No,
these
it
tenants,
is.
but it is
Yeah.
stealing.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you have any issues with squatters or anything like that?
handful. It's
Break-ins.
primarily the vacant properties are a target
Yeah.
with the cold temperatures. They're
That's
just
all,
looking
yeah.
for a shelter. It's not always ill intent. They're just cold.
Sure. Yeah, which I
And
get.
then
Yeah.
they typically leave the next day, kind of thing. But we've got a broken door to fix.
Yeah.
And then or it's raining, pouring, whatever it is. Then there's some where it's truly they're looking
They're
for
there
those
to stay.
appliances, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like those vacant properties are a target because of the
Mhm.
appliances. They can get a quick resale on those. So part of our systems, we document all of the appliance serial numbers. So we've learned the hard way in the past too. Appliances are stolen. You go to the cops, they can't help you. They're like, just another thing. And they're like, really? Wow. But if I provide the serial number, model number, then they're able to actually
Track
look for
it.
something. If it shows up secondhand market, they can target it.
Usually, I don't know if they do here, but my former place of employment, we had actually like a pawn shop team that if you could provide those serial numbers, they can watch it
Yeah.
all day long. And
Yep.
there's a database for it. Like pawn shops have to enter all this stuff into.
Yep.
So they know.
And police
Yeah.
have that as well. So that we provide that if there's a police report filed and it's like, here's what was stolen and the model number, serial number shows up in your database, then
You,
Yep.
you know where it
Got
came
them.
from.
Yeah.
got 'em.
So
love that.
is there any way to what would you say is the best way? I mean, besides having a tenant in there, to prevent that if you're going through a vacancy of a month or 2 months?
Yeah, I think the best way is going to be a Simply Safe system,
Mhm.
DIY security system. You don't need all of the tools. You don't need the door sensor even. Just get a couple motion detectors. Put those up, and if you want to go the extra mile and get internet in the property, then you can set up cameras. But I don't think it's worth it.
Do you
It's
think
just
that-
another expense?
Yeah.
It's going to go off, and just pay the $25, $29 a month, and it's dispatched directly to the police, and they'll show up. So
Yeah.
it's relatively easy. We've got a handful of them at property management. So if you want to rent them from us, we'll cover the hardware and we'll put it in.
That's a smart approach.
It's a good
and
way.
you can just
Yeah.
we'll take it out at move in, and or we'll have the tenant buy it from us. We've had that before. I'm like, sure. I mean,
Just leave them there.
yeah, leave it there and they use it. It's fine. Yeah, you just transfer the contract and pay us a quick fee for the hardware, discount it because we've used it for so long. Whatever.
Yeah, I doubt any of them are watching this. I know there's a ton of people that just don't even care about that. They're like, whatever.
Yeah,
kick it in, take it, and leave. But
exactly. Yep.
It does add an extra layer of thought.
It does.
At least.
And I think the biggest thing would even be a free approach would be download Simply Safe photo.
Yeah, and just put
it
out,
on the door.
We have done
Say
that.
monitor.
Yeah,
We have done that on
I've
deterrent.
done that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a deterrent.
Or you can just go on. I mean, even Amazon. Like
Yeah,
you
Amazon
can
has Simply Safe stickers.
Yeah.
Or even with the signs, just the stake sticking in the front yard.
We had a big problem a couple years ago with people busting the AES meter on the back because they'd kill that. 24 hours later, the battery would drain on the Simply Safe. So then they come back and not have an active alarm.
That's smart.
So I thought that was smart on the thieves end. So what we did, we started, we created these circle stickers with a smiley face, and it just says "Smile, you're on camera."
Yeah.
Stuck it on the meter,
The AES.
and put up a dummy camera on the top above it. So I was like, deter a little bit there.
Nice. Yeah.
You try anything.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, anything to make them second guess at least.
Yep. Exactly.
So.
Move on to an easier target.
Yeah.
Not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you've got a couple of rentals. Are you willing to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. Yeah, I've got 4 doors today, 3 assets.
Nice.
I've done a couple flips. It's good and bad. Good, ugly, bad. It's nice because I can relate to the owners that I manage. I've got the same problems. I run all my rentals through Live Indy, so I can experience how my business is managing my own assets.
Yeah.
Are they going to perform well? Am I collecting rent? Is my lease actually performing well? I had lower lease up rates this year than in the past and had to lower my rent just like everybody else.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's tough, but you just ride the wave and enjoy that long-term appreciation.
What's the biggest mistake you've made in your investing journey so far?
I think on the property management side, not hiring a really skilled operator earlier. I think that would be, if I could just pick one thing, find someone who knows the business better than I do, wants to build it, wants to grow it, and just bring them on earlier than I have. And I think that would have solved some operational problems that I wasn't able to predict.
I think that's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah.
I think the best decision I've made along this journey is hire salespeople who are better than I am. Hire a maintenance guy who's better than I am. Because I sure as heck want to raise my game. So
yeah, we've talked. Delegation is something I think we both talked about it. We'd like to get better on.
Yeah,
it's difficult because you actually care about it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to let it go.
Yeah.
To someone else who it's not theirs, it's not their baby. So
yeah. For sure. So that's all I got. I think that I can. Off the top
well,
of
and
my head.
your bourbon glass is empty, dude. Does that mean it's over?
I mean, I could also pour another one.
Yeah, I mean,
have the ability.
That is an option. What other directions would you want to go with it today? What would you want anybody who's watching this, who's a relatively new investor? What would you want them to know about property management?
Some expectations.
So like, how would you set expectations appropriately?
I think expectations is the big thing as I head into foreseeable future, like maybe 3-4 months down the road, they decide to grow again. That's kind of the timing I have slated, Q2 2025. But that's going to be the big thing, is the roadmap of expectations and do a slower sales process. So it's going to be one of those things where saying, hey, Nick, this is exactly how it's going to go. This is what you can expect on maintenance. This is what you can expect on your turn time, your lease up time, and just be really transparent about it. We've got 5 years experience of how this has gone. We've ridden waves, different market seasons. And I think setting those expectations is going to be good.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. What have been the keys for your best investors growing and like actually being successful?
I think it's trusting the management company to make the decision. not trying to micromanage the manager. That gets frustrating.
Yeah.
And while of course they have the final say, we've been around the block a few times, seen it across so many properties. And while you might be a big time investor and have, 30, 40 properties over your lifetime, it's all different. Every market changes.
You deal with it every day.
Yeah, it's like there's different situations, and as they come, we're going to make the best decision possible for you. And it's not always about us being profitable. It's about us getting it done and improving tenant satisfaction. The tenant ends up running this business monetarily.
Mhm.
If they don't pay rent, then we don't collect the management fee. The owner doesn't collect their money to pay their mortgage. And so I think the tenant is kind of the underrated hero in the business. We got to give them a little bit more
No
grace
kidding,
and
man.
make sure we're monitoring tenant satisfaction overall. But ultimately, they're gonna renew or not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that leads to vacancy. We want to keep them happy.
I remember listening to somebody one time saying that he's like, I don't refer to them as tenants anymore. I refer to them as residents because for all intents and purposes, this is their home at the current time. And
like
we
that.
rely on them.
Yeah.
Like that.
So he's like, and I feel like tenant's kind of a demeaning term at times, or you're looking down like these are my tenants.
Oh, sure.
It's like, he's like, I won't call them that anymore. I call them all residents. So, which I thought,
like
I
that.
like that when he said
No,
that.
I've actually never
Yeah.
thought of it that way.
So I thought that was a cool way to look at it, and something I've tried to start saying it, but I think tenant is ingrained in all of our brain.
Sure.
That's just what comes out first. But one other question I had was, I guess for what to look for if you're starting to interview property management companies, what should you be looking for when you're talking to some of these different people? And some red flags, I guess.
Red flags is just looking at what their fee structure is. There's a lot of hidden fees in management contracts. And try and be really transparent about our fee structure. Keep it really simple. I think the biggest thing though is communication expectations. And that can be a slippery slope if a manager likes to create a relationship where they just want to text you and want to have a phone conversation at 8 p.m. It's like, this is our job and this is our day-to-day. We've got families at home. Just because this is your investment and maybe your side hustle because you've got a great W-2 working as a real estate banker, whatever, or a investment banker, and you want to diversify your investments, you bought a place in Indiana and hired a property manager. Just because you're off work now doesn't mean that it's best to call your property manager and just talk about your investment at 8 p.m. It's kind of rude. So
don't give him your phone number, dude. That's my biggest piece of advice. Don't give him your phone number.
And I have, and that's starting at 18 doors and growing it to over 500. A lot of these people have my personal number, and it's not that I don't like them. It's just this has evolved to I've got a 20-month-old son at home. I want to spend time with him at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. before he goes to bed. That's literally the only time I have during the day. That's valuable to me, and so it feels like everything is urgent when you text and whatnot. And so just understanding that we're human too. This is a job and it's something we're building. But I think too, to my own fault is either texting back, taking the call. It's like, I just love it. And I enjoy making that client happy and satisfied. And so I sometimes cave to that too. So I've got my own self to, work on as well and build processes and procedures and hire the right people to kind of take some of that off my plate too.
Yeah, I would agree.
Perfect. Well, I guess the important question then is, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you other than your cell phone?
Sure.
If they're looking for property management to talk to you to kind of get your expertise on what they're doing.
Yeah, I'd say email's the best way, and I'll commit to emailing back within 24 hours. And it's just Kenny.
One business day. Not over the
One business
day. Thank you. Yeah, Kenny KENNY at LiveIndy LIVINDY.co. There's no M on the end, so .co.
Easy one to mess up. And I'll just say, I've been working with Kenny quite a bit here over the last year or so, and no property management company will ever be perfect. But let me tell you, Kenny freaking cares. I think the two of us, the only fights we get into is because Kenny cares so much. So I got to give him a lot of credit there.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best things you can look for. Somebody who actually cares.
Absolutely. Brooks, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Brooks at brbysindy.com. Again, we do wholesaling. We hold our own rentals and do flips as well. So we do a little bit of everything. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out or just message any of our platforms on here. We'll make sure the message gets to the right person.
Yep.
So, and Nick?
Perfect. Nick at offleashconstruction.com. And please take a look at offleashconstruction.com/calculator. It's a free tool out there. Use it for any market. Doesn't really matter, but hopefully it helps people better understand the key metrics that they need.
Yeah. Ask me for a rent estimate and we'll
you'll be a done
we can
deal.
build together.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah, Nick's good at building calculators. I can vouch for that.
That's good.
Absolutely.
So, cool, guys.
Thanks
for
having
joining us, Kim.
Yeah, it's been great. I love it.